For a long time, the United Kingdom had been seen as a beacon of opportunity for many people. Individuals from India came to study, to work, to build families, and to create entirely new lives. The understanding was clear: work hard, follow the rules, and eventually you could earn the right to stay indefinitely, even become a citizen with the pride of holding a British passport. But in recent times, those expectations have been shaken by sudden and sweeping changes in immigration policy. Today, the reality facing many Indians in the UK is one of uncertainty and anxiety. Indian restaurants, once beloved community hubs, found themselves suddenly under siege. In a massive crackdown on illegal working, immigration enforcement teams carried out a blitz of raids across the country. Police descended on numerous businesses, especially small shops and restaurants often owned or staffed by migrants. News reports painted a grim picture. Single Indian restaurants were raided and multiple people were taken into custody. The government openly publicised these operations, even releasing video footage of the raids and deportations as a way to demonstrate how tough it was being on immigration. This wasn't a one-time event. The campaign continued with new targets. For example, the gig economy and food delivery riders saw rounds of arrests. Within just a single week, dozens of delivery workers, many of them Indian nationals, were arrested for suspected immigration violations. For Indian business owners, these actions created an atmosphere of fear. It was no longer just about being careful who you hired. Even a small paperwork mistake could bring dire consequences. The Home Office began using its power to demand the shutdown of businesses found to employ someone without the proper documents. In some cases, long-standing local establishments faced losing their operating licenses or being closed entirely. The message was clear: running a community restaurant or shop had become a risky endeavour, where even minor errors in right-to-work checks might mean financial ruin. This enforcement LED campaign on the ground is only one part of a much bigger shift. Across the board, immigration rules are being changed in ways that will fundamentally alter who can stay in the UK long term. For many migrants, the goal of indefinite leave to remain ILR was the ultimate prize. ILR means being settled, living and working in Britain without the worry of visa renewals, and it is the crucial step before becoming a citizen. For years, a skilled worker could qualify for ILR after roughly 5 years of living in the UK. 5 years was enough time to put down roots, build a career, and fully integrate into British life. Now, under a new government plan, even that pathway is being extended dramatically. In fact, the proposal is to double the qualifying period, turning what used to be a half-decade wait into essentially a decade. In practical terms, it means spending almost twice as long on temporary visas before one could feel truly settled. This single change rewrites the deal for anyone who came to Britain dreaming of a permanent future. And the hurdles are not stopping there. The new immigration framework also proposes much tougher requirements for English language. Visa applicants will need to demonstrate a higher level of proficiency than before, and for the first time, adult family members who want to join them would have to pass a basic English test just to come to the UK. With the timeline to ILR stretched out, the journey to citizenship gets pushed even further into the future. Charities and advice groups are already warning people to act quickly under the old rules. If you currently qualify for British citizenship, it may make sense to apply now, because soon you might be facing much longer waits. There are also growing fears that the government will more readily strip status from those who are already settled. British law already allows ILR to be taken away if it was obtained through deception, if someone commits a serious crime, or if a person stays outside the UK for too long. In the current climate, where every interaction with immigration officials feels charged, people worry that even long-time residents could see their status threatened more often. Meanwhile, the doors that bring new immigrants into the country are tightening as well. The skilled worker visa, once a major route for Indians coming to the UK, has seen several rule changes. The government raised the required skill level for a sponsored job from roughly an A level to a university degree. This means many jobs in hospitality, logistics, and other fields roles that used to be filled by overseas workers are no longer eligible for sponsorship. On top of that, the minimum salary thresholds for sponsorship have been raised significantly. making even more jobs inaccessible unless an employer pays very high wages. Perhaps the most dramatic blow came in healthcare. The Health and Care Worker Visa was a lifeline for the NHS and social care system, a way to bring in doctors, nurses and carers from abroad. Thousands of Indian nationals came to Britain each year through this route. Yet now that option has been shut off for new applicants in care worker roles. Experts warn this change is hugely risky. Without overseas workers, the NHS and social care system would have struggled to survive long ago. For many Indians who had seen working in healthcare as their path to life in Britain, that door has now firmly closed. Younger immigrants face challenges too. Indian students are the largest group of international students in the UK. The popular graduate route visa, which used to allow students to stay and work for a period after finishing their degrees, is being scaled back. Additionally, most students are no longer allowed to bring their family members with them. For many prospective students, the chance to gain work experience after study was a key attraction now. With that opportunity diminished and dependence largely barred, the UK seems much less welcoming. And to add to the mounting pressures, India has been placed on the UK's Deport Now, Appeal Later list. This means that if an Indian national is convicted of a crime, they could be deported from the UK before their human rights appeal is heard. Taken together raids, stricter rules, and cut-off routes, the picture becomes clear. It looks like a systematic re-engineering of the immigration system, designed to deter all but the most senior-level, highly paid migrants. Indians, being the largest share of non-EU migrants in the UK, find themselves disproportionately affected by these changes. The sense of being unwelcome is almost tangible. Student groups and community organisations have been raising alarms. For example, the National Indian Students and Alumni Union has publicly warned that students are becoming panicked and are demanding clarity on the new rules. In fact, even a recent government review admitted that these hostile environment policies have an unequal impact on people of colour, and noted that Indians are among the most affected. What makes all of this especially striking is the timing. At the very moment the UK government is tightening the immigration tap, it is also on the verge of finalising a major free trade agreement with India. This sends a conflicting message. On one hand, Britain wants to welcome Indian investment and access the huge Indian market. On the other hand, it seems to be closing its door to Indian people. The country appears to be saying, yes, bring your money and business, but not your families or students. For many, this feels like a betrayal of the long-standing ties between the UK and the Indian community. So, does the UK still want Indian migrants? Looking at the recent actions and policy changes, the answer from many quarters is unsettling. Raids on businesses, doubling the path to settlement, closing off key visa routes. All of this points to a deliberate strategy of deterrence. Of course, the UK is perfectly entitled to set its own immigration policies and to protect its borders. But these recent shifts are more than small tweaks. They mark a fundamental change in the relationship between the UK and its Indian diaspora. Hundreds of thousands of people who have invested their lives, skills and hopes in Britain now face a future full of uncertainty. The dream of eventually gaining permanent status and citizenship is being pushed further and further out of reach. For a growing number of Indians in Britain, the calculation is changing. The country that once felt like a welcoming home now sometimes feels hostile. For many, the question is no longer simply how they can stay, but whether they should stay at all. This is a complex and deeply personal dilemma, and one that many Indian students, workers and business owners are grappling with right now as they weigh their futures under these new immigration realities.